20%, and the worst case scenario for Democrats is the government's only paying 80% rather than 90% of the premium, if that makes sense. And we're happy, to talk about what we'd like to do as Republicans to drive down the cost of health care, but just want to drive this home. $50 billion of fraud, and the cost of health care insurance premiums are going to go up 20% regardless of what happens here in the next month or three.
So that's what Democrats are counting on, because at the end, setting up for the year, they say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Johnson, here's your new premiums. And the Democrats are going to say, that's because Republicans cut your program so rich people can get richer.
Yeah, and that's, I think I'm just so frustrated. And of course, that's going to be this is their number one issue that they're going to try to run on next year is health care. And I think that Republicans need to lean into it with solutions. What President Trump did yesterday with Trump RX is a step in the right direction on the price of prescription drugs. We have legislation called our price tags bills, where we would force hospitals, imaging centers, surgery centers to post their prices. And when your doctor says you need your knee replaced, you could look at all the hospitals in your area, look at the prices, look at their outcomes, and then you make a decision because you're going to have to use your HSA dollars to pay your out-of-pocket, that type of thing. We need to expand HSAs as well. So there's things that we can do to start driving the cost of health care down. So between now and when people go to the polling booth next November, Republicans can show results. But look, this 20% rise in insurance premiums is on the back of the ACA. It's on the back of these subsidies that the federal government has given so much subsidies to insurance companies. You talk about corporate welfare, $150 billion a year of corporate welfare. The more we give the subsidy, the more they raise everybody's insurance policies.
So, that's what you need, people to study this. It's not something that can be a cartoon or a couple of lines. So we find out where the weakness in the system is, find out how to fix it, and understand everybody wants everyone to have great health care, top quality health care at affordable prices. Nobody wants to get anyone bankrupt. But the Obamacare system is not working. And to fix it, they keep throwing more money at it. And if you take the money away, that means you don't like poor people. And that's the cycle that you need people to stand back and approach this intellectually. And someone like you, who's a doctor that studies the insurance side of it necessarily, and now as a politician, to come forward with the definition. And hopefully behind closed doors, there'll be serious people on the other side to try to work this out a year out of the midterms. But lastly, with the whole problem of giving illegals all these accommodations, including health care, has never been a problem before until recently. I want to bring you back to the 1990s. Hillary Clinton and Chuck Schumer, believe it or not, they've both been around since the 90s. Listen to them talk about illegal immigration and health care.
We do not want to do anything to encourage more illegal immigration into this country. We know now that too many people come in for medical care as it is. We certainly don't want them having the same benefits that American citizens are entitled to have.
People say, well, why can't you stop illegal immigrants or others from coming here? And the number one answer we give our constituents is when they come here, they can get jobs, get benefits against the law because of fraud.
That was his worry in the 90s. Does he think it went away now? And why did they change their perspective?
Yeah, Brian, so that's politics, right? So they're responding to their far left base. They have changed their beliefs. Every morning, Brian, I don't mean to be corny, but I wake up and pray that I would do justice, love mercy, and walk humbly. And that do justice part is what we're talking about right here. What's the right thing to do? Probably 2 million people, 2 million illegal immigrants have been getting free health care or subsidized health care from the federal government. I mean, that's what the CBO said. 2 million illegal immigrants each year get free health care subsidies from the federal government. And our One Big Beautiful bill made a pretty good firm attack on that, forcing people to figure out who these people really are, where they're working, those types of things. And the part of what the Democrats want to open government up again is to do away with that. But I think that this is, I'm not the politician, but something of convenience. So they switched their stance on this because that's what's convenient right now in their political party. Don't you think this is just about them moving and I'm trying to do what's right here. Look, I want everybody to have meaningful, affordable access to health care. care, and every person that came into our emergency room or anyone that showed up that needed they're delivered and they didn't have health care, we took care of them. That's the right thing to do. But we can't be sitting there with a beacon saying, come to America, you're going to get free housing, free food, and free health care.
Right. And that's where the funding for illegals comes. The money goes to these hospitals because they have to operate on people for free and treat them for free. So not if you provide money to those hospitals, and what that's money for, people who come in uninsured. Who's uninsured? Illegal immigrants are uninsured. That's how it doesn't necessarily say this money's for illegal immigrants, but that's how they're handled. And we get it. And that was very competently defined for us by J.D. Vance on Fox and Friends yesterday. We brought it forward. Senator Marshall, last question. What is your prediction on how long this will last? What does your gut tell you?
Yeah, Brian, I put the over-under for next Tuesday. I think by then his political base will have realized they didn't walk into a trap. They walked into a buzzsaw. When Russ Vought gets through with this week and the first and next week, and President Trump, he's got the biggest megaphone I've ever seen. When he drills them, when things come out like Nancy Pelosi's, I think that was just a tattletale moment yesterday when she just lost it on camera about AOC as well. So I think by next Tuesday, Schumer says, he'll declare victory, and we'll get on with life. At least that's my hope. So I put the over-under on next Tuesday. We'll see. All
right. Roger Marshall on the record Tuesday. Senator, thank you. Hope you're right.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Take it down. With us right now is Senator Marshall. Senator, I know the Jewish holidays today, so not much is going on. Tomorrow there could be a vote. Do you sense, I know there's 3 Democrats who've come to your side, and you lost Rand Paul because he's on his own planet. But do you sense there could be 5 more Democrats who take the rug out from underneath Schumer?
Well, Brian, good morning, and not yet. This is day number 2 of the Schumer shutdown. This is a political shutdown. This issue on the COVID subsidies is all a smokescreen. I really think we should ask AOC when she's going to cry uncle. Did you see Nancy Pelosi respond yesterday? That how she bristled her neck.
In fact, Senator, for our listeners, let's hear it. So I know what you're referring to. So let's hear it. Cut 8.
There was a thought from the Republicans that AOC is directing this, and she said that senators are welcome to go to her office directly. Is she?
Why are you saying such a ridiculous thing? Why are you saying?
Said go to her office directly. Do you think there's any?
She is not directing this. She's wonderful. She's a real team player and the rest of that. You started by saying Republicans saying that she's directing this. She is not. Hakeem Jeffries is. She's an articulate spokesperson for her point of view.
But by the way, this is what Nancy Pelosi is yelling at the reporter, which is nice. But here's what AOC said, cut 7.
I saw some Republican members of Congress saying, oh, well, if we have this shutdown, it's because of AOC. Well, if that's the case, my office is open and you are free to walk in and negotiate with me directly.
So are you, Senator? Are you going to take her up on that? Or should Nancy Pelosi get an education of what AOC actually said?
Well, Ryan, maybe you and I could go over an interview or sit down, host her for a round table, you and me, and have that discussion as well. But I think that you're a journalist. You read body language. I'm a physician. I read body language. I've never seen Nancy Pelosi bristle like that. I mean, they hit a nerve. This is absolutely Chuck Schumer responding, just like New York City trying to figure out what to do with their potential communist mayor. The rest of the Democrat Party is trying to figure out what to do with AOC. If there was a primary tomorrow in New York, I think that she beats Schumer running away. So this is Chuck Schumer getting down on his knee, bending his knee to the far, far left radical liberal party that they have become right now. So this is all political. I don't think there's any way we bridge that gap this weekend. I think next week when the Democrats wake up and there's another 100,000 people that have been permanently fired from the federal government, shrinking this government back. But I want to give you some facts. I know that you actually want someone to back up their facts. When Joe Biden became president, there was about 2.8 million federal employees. When President Trump took over, there was over 3 million President Trump has shrunk us about half the way back. We're not even back to pre-Biden numbers, to pre-COVID numbers in the federal government. So we got a lot of work to be done to shrink the size of the federal government.
So I remember in March, Schumer said, I don't want a shutdown because it'll allow Musk and Trump more leeway to drastically cut programs. And he told Dems we have to fund the government. Now here we are in September. Does he think that because Musk is gone, they're not going to cut? Russ Vought is actually doing it more methodically with more experience. He's been studying it. And he already froze $18 billion that are going to New York infrastructure. Obviously a message to Hakeem Jeffries and Senator Schumer. Do you worry about looking callous? Because these jobs are filled with people, right, that have families. Do you worry about that perception?
I don't think I worry about it, Brian, but it's part of the political calculation. I think we should measure twice and cut once. I think that the big picture Republicans back home understand that we're going to take in $5 trillion and spend $7 trillion this year. They understand that regulation is probably the one of the biggest holders brakes on the economy as well. They realize that there was less federal employees, that there'd be less regulatory process, hopefully, to jump through as well. So I think it's part of the calculus. The economy trumps this by 1,000. And no, we don't want to be callous. We do not. What we do want to see, though, is helping these people move from government jobs back to the private sector and growing the economy rather than throttling it down.
So this is within the Washington Post today, and they basically said Democrats just marched into a shutdown trap. And they say left-wing Democrats, like the Freedom Caucus before them on the Republican side, enter this shutdown in a position of weakness. President Trump and his budget director, Russ Vought, now have extraordinary authority to choose which agencies to close, which spending to prioritize, even which government workers to lay off. And they're wondering what they were thinking. He said a partial shutdown of the federal government began at midnight. Democrats have insisted any agreement to prevent a government shutdown must extend tax credits for the Affordable Care Act beyond this year. But they don't have any leverage to do it. They all wish they could have a different program, but they lost the majority. The big, beautiful bill passed. And those cuts are to the pandemic level of supplemental spending, as well as making sure that the right people are getting Medicaid and not healthy people who are just sponging off the system.
Right. Yeah, Brian, let's take a quick dive down on these COVID subsidies, if you don't mind. Number one is we should fund the government and get it open. That's a separate conversation than these COVID subsidies because it's so complicated. I've been looking at this now for several months, knowing that December 31st is the deadline. I'm willing to sit down with anyone, anywhere, any place, and discuss them. The first thing we have to address is the fraud. So these subsidies have grown under the ACA from $50 billion to $150 billion a year. We think that maybe $50 billion of fraud, waste, and abuse is setting. I'm not making that number up. If we had time, I could go into a lot of detail, but there's a huge amount of fraud, waste, and abuse there. And then behind the scenes, behind the curtains, insurance premiums are going to go up 20% this year. Brian, that's what I want to work on. I want to work on bringing down the price of health care. So regardless of what happens with these subsidies, the policies are going to go up